yeah, you have to have plenty of money and glossy hair and beautiful clothes, and you have to age perfectly, and you know the whole thing.
How are we doing?
And
How are we doing?
you know.
The New York Times recently reported that women's happiness has been on the decline for the past 35 years. What do you think of this statistic?
Well, I can say as a psychologist, it's a complicated question. 50 years ago, picket fence, you knew who you were supposed to marry and when. He had to come on a white horse. He better come quickly or your life was miserable. You better have your 2 children. You know, you better stay home, cook supper, toll cook, you know, the cookies, the whole thing. Now, that may sound good, but if you were a woman yearning to be an artist or a physician, or maybe go off and be a missionary, you may have had trouble with it, and you may have felt very unhappy. Today, you are supposed to do everything. And yeah, you have to have plenty of money and glossy hair and beautiful clothes, and you have to age perfectly, and you know the whole thing.
How are we doing?
And you know, have 2 or 3 kids without any wrinkles, no expansion of tummy, nothing. Everything perfect. Gym 5 days a week, 5 a.m. Oh, good. I'd love to meet you there. You know, and so it's not. Is it easier? Is it better? Well, it's different, but the bottom line always remains your authentic self. If you get back to yourself, you love to sew, well, maybe you'll love to sew now. You love to sew as a child, but it represented being poor, you may never want to do it again. You know, so you have to understand the dynamics of who you are and what feels right.
And do you think even if we make like 20 minutes a day to take care of ourselves, that will make a difference?
No, it's not enough.
No,
we need a little more than
It's
that.
hard. I'm a mom.
know.
It's really hard to find time.
No, but 20 minutes is a good start, particularly if it's 20 minutes that feels right to you. It could be a nice, luxurious bath for one woman, and it could be 20 minutes on the phone with her best friend for another woman. Again, it always takes you to make the decision. And believe me, when women felt men were making the decisions for them, that led to depression. That was not a solution. It's never a solution to give over your power.
Well,
you know,
I think in terms of the happiness question, being happier 50 years ago to being happier today, today it's the pressure of going after it. You know, you can also go after it. You don't leave happiness just to a man's decision. It's now completely up to me. So I think that what makes it a little bit challenging when it comes down to, are we happier? The second point to that is resources. Back then, I think if you had challenges or issues with behavior and relationships, who did you talk to? Today, you have a lot more support for that, and you have reference for that, right?
Community. There was community. All the women were home. They were, you know, playing, I don't know if they're playing bridge. I'm kind of making something
They
up
were
here, but
milking
it felt
the
like they were
cows.
in community more than we're in community now.
Yeah, because-
but I will,
yes.
you know, you lived it, so.
well, I didn't live as far back as
Right.
you're
No,
going
not-
with the cows and everything.
My mom played tennis, by the way.
You know,
played
but
tennis,
no,
So there you go, tennis.
you know,
I think like when I think about that question of if women are happier, I kind of think about my mom and then my grandmother to kind of date it back. And it just feels like, you know, there was less choice, right? There was less choice back then. And so they just followed what...
That may not be a good thing.
Right.
You know,
Well,
for
it's
someone
not
to think that,
necessarily a good
exactly.
thing because I think we have choice now, and I think it's empowering as women for us to know that we have choice, right? We can be in touch with what it is that we want and ask for it, right? And I felt like with my mother, grandmother, that wasn't in play. That wasn't in play. Yeah. And I think we have that now, but that doesn't necessarily mean we're happier. It just means we have more choice. And now that we have so many more options, it feels like, yeah, we're confused.
That's my point. The idea that choice today, there's so many choices. I mean, just walking down a cereal aisle, you could, you know, lose your mind. There's so many choices, and sometimes fewer choices can actually make your life easier because, you know, there's not so much to confusion, not so much to pick from, not so much worry about making the right choice because there's fewer things, so it's probably easier to connect. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I talk to so many women who are just completely overwhelmed, probably because they're not taking more than 20 minutes to take care of themselves, and so they just kind of hover and don't get anywhere.
I think a lot of women would say, 20 minutes where? What are you talking about?
I can relate to that.
Yeah, I can relate to that in a certain sense. It's like, I don't have the luxury of 20 minutes. I got to do this, 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 and this.
And it's a
Luxury.
double-edged
Exactly.
sword.
It's a luxury to
It
find
is.
20
For moms.
minutes. I always voting for the 48-hour clock. That's what I want.
Double-edged sword,
I want the
though, for
48-hour
women.
clock.
I think it's a double-edged sword because we have to contend with the idea of what I want to do, with what's good for me, with what I have to do, and that's always it's combating with each other.
Yes.
And I think your point is very well made that women need to take responsibility for being authentic with what it is that they want to do with their life.
I grew up with gurus from India, you know, like the real deal, like no attachment thing. And happiness is the question for every human being, you know, and it's not something that you just decide and wake up one day and you're like, I'm happy, you know. It's a moment to moment being present throughout your life journey.
Yeah, well said. So are women happier today than they were 50 years ago? It's a bit debatable. I think that, you know,
The harder you work at it,